So good morning, everybody. We're finally getting ready to get started here. We're going to be doing some web services from 2E, and we're going to then be deploying the web services in Matchpoint. And then we are going to consume the at least one web service in Plex. So like I said earlier this week, by the end of this time, you guys will all be Plex programmers.
Okay, model, what do you want me to do?
Okay, go ahead and go to person.
All right, hang on. I'm going as programmer.
But I need you to show your screen too.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Then, all right, then let me so I can start that up.
So, oh, you don't have a link to the.
Let me see.
Okay.
I hadn't joined the meeting yet.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly walk you through the 2E side. Since you guys are all 2E programmers, I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. And we're doing very simple web services. And then I'll walk you through the Matchpoint part and show you how to go ahead and check out your stuff and promote it and deploy it. And then Eric's going to jump on and he's going to show you how to do the Plex side. So as soon as we can get our screen up, then I'll start going on the 2E part of it. So you should have all gotten an email reply today with a link to the image that you're going to be using. If you were on here a little bit ago, you saw Russ connecting to his. So you're going to go through a similar process that you saw Russ doing. If you didn't see it at that point, don't worry about it. We'll walk you through as you need help. Okay. And Eric just sent out the user ID and password for, is that for the VM?
That's for the VM, yeah.
Okay. All right. So.
Trying to get in there.
Okay, Jonathan he's going to be walking through the 400 for me because somehow on my home computer, I'm not able to get onto the 400.
Okay, you approve me and I'll get.
Sure, why? I don't see you on there.
It should just come up.
Yeah, it should come up. It hasn't come up yet on there.
Go back to my email then.
Oh, you need to approve it.
Oh. So as we go through this, I think you'll see that with 2E and with Matchpoint that you can do some good services. We're actually going to be doing RESTful services today. That's the more common, the more modern approach. I think a lot of companies in the past have done the SOAP. I know one of the places I work, that's pretty much what they use is SOAP services. And
several years ago.
Yeah, they started that several years ago. So who knows, they might migrate over to using non-SOAP, using REST, because they actually are using Matchpoint as well for their services now, deploying web services. Okay, so Jonathan, you should be able to join here shortly.
Yep, let me in.
All right. There we are.
Right. System. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Let's see, Russ, are you still showing your screen? I think you have to stop showing your screen for us to, for Jonathan.
Yeah, I stopped.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting, because I still see your buyer's choice.
The avatar is avatar.
Oh, okay. So how many of you guys use web services right now? I know there's one here in the room. I use them. Anybody else? I don't see any. Okay, we're using 8.7.1 of 2E. The reason for that, well, on our box, 8.7.1 is the best version to use. We are also going to 8.7.2, like Russ had mentioned, showed everybody how to do. So we're going to use this application. It's a simple insurance application. And we're going to go down to the person table. Actually, we're going to be writing services over the person table, but I want you to go instead of person, put a W and then go to relational level. Nope.
Oh, wait.
Instead of the person. Yeah. Okay. Go up and then search for a W for web services, I think. And put you have to put the relation level, DFN,
Okay.
because we're not using, okay. So I have the sample web services in the web services object. Those are ones that you can look at when you're doing your work. When you're doing your exercises, I want you to work in the web services exercise object or file. And be sure that you put your initials on the end of your web services so that you know which one is yours. Because we're all using the same model. We're all writing similar web services. So all of our names are going to be similar in there. Okay, go ahead and go into the web services. No, the web services.
Entries or what?
Do an F. Okay, so we're gonna create an add service program or add person. And you see I put my initials on the end, add person with a service program. So we're gonna use this model where we have the module and the service program. We could have done it where we just have a actual ILE program and do it from there, but I wanted us to have this experience. And you see we have a change person, we have a change person service, then we have the get all people and get all people service. So this is going to be the one that we are going to be putting into Plex is the get all people. And you can name it something similar, but make sure that you have your initials, like I said, that way when you're doing your work in Matchpoint, you'll be able to more easily find your programs. So go ahead and do look at the parameters on the add person. So it's very simple. We are using an HTTP status. I've already created this field. That's one of the items that you can do in 871 is you can create a field that is an integer field versus just a regular number that we have. So that is something that they've added in 871 just primarily for this purpose. And then you'll see if you go down into the person table and Z into that, then you see that we're just entering in all the people information, the person information. And I'm not entering the person ID because we're going to auto generate that. So you can F3 from that and go ahead and F3 out of that one. Okay, then, let's Z into add person, the one above it.
Okay. Okay, yes.
Yeah, so one thing you do have to do is you have to do the T on this area. So you are going to be compiling this as an ILE module, not as a program. So right now it's set to program, and there now it's set to module. So be sure that you make that change because that has to be done in order for this to work correctly. All right, now let's F3 here. And let's go down and Z into the add person service. So this one, the primary thing you're going to do is you're going to do an M on this section. And that's where you go and add your modules. And you could actually add many modules. We have Matchpoint set up so you can add as many modules as you want in here, and you can define them in Matchpoint. But most people that I've seen that are right now getting into these on the floor that are Synon developers just use one module. And the way that you add your module is you do an F6. And then here you can see all the modules that exist in your model. And you just go and locate the one you want, and then you do an X to select it. But we've already selected ours, so we're going to just F3 from here. Okay, so let's go and F3 all the way out. So does anybody have any questions about this part so far? All right. So silence is that there isn't a question. So we'll go on and continue. I'm going to skip over the change person because it's very simple. You can either look at the actual function when you're doing your work, or in the instructions. There's fairly good instructions on how to do this when you do your lab. All right, now let's go to the get all people, and let's do a P on that one and look at the parameters. So this one is a little bit different. We do still have the HTTP status, but now I'm passing back an array. So I've had to set this yes for an array because I'm going to pass back a list of people. And so it's going to be a list. It's going to be an array that's being sent back. So let's F3 from here. And you'll do the same thing for the module. You have to set it up as a module like we did before. And when we get down to the web service, you do the same thing as far as attaching the module to your web service. But I want to go ahead and let's F into the all people, into the function itself, because there's some different things we have to do here. This is how I do it, where it works pretty good for me. You know, every programmer can do things a little bit differently, but this is a basic process where I'm setting, you know, my locals to, I'm clearing them all out. I'm setting a counter. In this case, I call it counter 5. I'm setting it to a 1. And then I'm going to clear my array elements. So let's go ahead and Z into that section. So I'm just looping through an array, and I'm just clearing them all out so that I know that, you know, there's nothing in there. So that's the first part of this process. My array has 30, it's 30 item elements long. So I'm just using a 30 to go through it. All right, let's F3. The next step is I have to build my array. So here I'm going to my person table, and go ahead and do a FF so we can see what we have at that point.
What, FF?
FF on the retrieve. Okay, so you can see that all I'm sending back is a counter. So I'm going to be sending back the number of elements that I add to this array. So if it, you know, if I add 1, 5, 10, whatever I number, that's going to be coming back for me. Okay, now let's go ahead and Z into this retrieve and do an F5. And of course, the initialize, I'm just setting, initializing the values. Now I'll go down to process data record. All right, and here you see that my element number, I'm just incrementing it every time I find a new person in my person table. And then in the array, you can see that I am creating a record in my array every time I find someone in there. So by the end of this retrieve, I'm going to have all of my people. I'm not restricting on anything this time, so I'm just getting everybody that's in my person table. Okay, so now let's do an F5 and let's see what we're doing on exit. And so there, I'm just sending back because I used local. I didn't want to use it both for the number. So I'm just sending back because I put everything, the number of elements in my local. I'm just sending it back to my par so that then we know how many elements were added to this array. All right, let's go back to the first program. All right, and let's what?
Too far?
Oh yeah, go F12, 1 back. All right, let's go down to load the output array. So now what I'm going to do is Z into this. We are going to read the array that we just filled, and we're going to send that back to the web service. So I am looking at the element number. I'm just setting it to 1, so I know I'm starting at number 1. And then I'm reading the first item, first element in my person list, because element is a key. If you do FF on that service, that list person, yeah. you'll see that my element number, that's my key to the file. And so I'm sending that in and then I am returning all my elements there. All right, let's F3 here. And then, oh, I'm setting my HTTP status. Some of it you can set within 2E, some of it is not within 2E. So I'm setting it to okay because I've found a record and we're okay. There's no errors at this point. And then I do my, I'm gonna repeatedly go through each element of the array that I have set. And then I'm going to add them to my output array. Now, one thing, let's go FF on that. On this, right at element found, add to output on the function right below that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the move array option item that they have added. So I am going to send all of them to my service list person out array. So you'll see that there's an array out there that has this name. You can use it if you want, or you can create your own. And then I'm using the element number and then the star all. So that's just, you only need those items to send back to your output array.
You do an F9 on that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. So that is the basic process. Let's F3 from here. So this is a basic process you need to send back an array list to the web service. And it's going to go through here and get everything for you. And then once it gets to the counter 5 that you had, then it's going to exit this. So let's go ahead and F3 here. So that's all we have for the basic program. Like I said, everybody does things just a little bit differently, but for me, this has worked quite well. And this is going to be the main one that you want to be sure you get this one, because this is the one we're going to consume in Plex today. The other two, obviously we want you to create those because those are part of the practice of using Matchpoint as well. So now the next part is going to be going to Matchpoint. So let me see if I can bring that up on my PC. You can end yours and
I've stopped.
all right, let me see if I can get mine showing. Okay. I guess I have to join again. Okay, now you should see my screen. Oh, is that the right one?
Hmm. You connected to the VPN?
Yeah, it's not showing my, that's weird. Oh, that's the VPN, isn't it? Okay. All right, that's actually the one I wanted to be on. So we're right at the VPN here. So let me go back into the VPN. Okay, so here I'm going to start up Matchpoint. This is just my the method we have on the system I'm working on. I'm just going to bring up Matchpoint here.
They will have it in the desktop.
You'll have yours in the desktop, so you'll just start it up from there. Okay, this is the main Matchpoint screen that you when you start up, but we're going to go to edit change request. I'm going to go ahead and click on there. And what this will do, this is going to be the main area you'll end up doing your work in is edit change request. Here you'll see that I have several already out there. So I have a couple in development. And can I use your 113, change request 13 of yours? Okay, so I'm going to look at change request 13. Well, actually, I should build a new one. So let's go and build a new change request. So you choose your application, and in here we just have one application, which is our CM insurance application. And then you get this screen that comes up and says, create change request. I'm going to set, the description is not going to be the name of your web service. It's just the name of your change request. So my, let's see, test mark. So I'm just going to call it that for now, test mark. And then I'm going to have it be a status of development. So I'm going to put mine right into development. And the other thing I need to make sure I have is, let's see what happened here. There we go. That CMF insurance development. So it's in the right development app.
You lost your share.
Oh, did I? Okay. Let me share again here. All right. So I'm connected to a VM from my PC, so it gets a little, takes up a little bit of room. All right, so I'm gonna hit apply. That's really all I need to do when I create a change request. There's other fields that we have that, depending on how people are using Matchpoint, there's a lot of flexibility in the tool. But for what we're doing, all we need to do, I'm going to, I just somehow got changed to rejected. So I'm going to put it back to development. And then I'm going to apply. And so here now you see that I have a test mark is out here. And if I wanted to, like, since there's going to be a lot of us using Matchpoint, you could go by requester and you can just show the ones that belong to you. You have to be sure to set your requester and then hit filter. And then it just filters to the ones that you are using. So here I have some others you'll see that I had put out there before. So I'm going to move to one that I had. Oh, no, let's see. So now I'm going to show you what to do to add objects to a promotion, because you have a change request and you're going to have a promotion. So I clicked on to create a promotion. It automatically creates it. You can have multiple promotions within a change request, but for our purposes, we just need one. So we just take the promotion one and then we edit objects. And when you edit objects, it brings you to a screen where you're going to do your work. So I can do my systemi import. And in this case, I don't have any that I've created today. I'm going to go from gen, because that's where the objects are. And I think I probably created this. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and just go back to 17th. I'm going to just have a date range from the 17th to the 27th. I'm going to just bring in all the objects that I have created during that time, or that I've compiled. So there'll be more than what I actually need. Well, in this case, it wasn't. It was just exactly what I needed. So here I see that I brought in the add person and both of the add persons, the service program and the module. So the next step you need to do, because these are web services, there needs to be some kind of definition. So like if you've ever used the IBMI tool to deploy web services, we have to do something similar here one time. So when we work at other companies that I worked at, every time we promoted, we had to go through use the tool, and we had to promote with the tool. Well, this is going to let you configure your web service one time, and then you just promote it through all the rest of the way. So I'm going to click on this one with the wrench. What Matchpoint does is it goes out and it reads what's going on with the file, with the programs. And then this is the screen where I actually do the naming of the configuration of my web service. So my web service name, Mark, test, I'm just going to call it that, just so we know that this is a test one I've done. I'm going to select a REST. We could do SOAP, SOAP 1, SOAP 1.2, or REST. We support all three of those types of web services. Now you see when I selected the name and the web service type, that down here, there was a bunch of stuff that was brought in. So what we've done is, when you're generating compiling your programs in 2E, there's a PCML file that's created. And what we have done is we have read that PCML file and brought that information over here. So now what you need to do is you need to set all of these to whatever status, whatever they're at. So these are all inputs. Let's see. Used to my computer, so.
You don't need to use the mouse to be able to.
So I used to be able to do this without the mouse.
But I think it's because it's being through RDPs.
Okay. Okay, in this case, I know that they were all inputs.
Something to mention, Mark, that if they have the Evolve IT integration, that will be automatically Evolve IT detect that.
That's true. There is a integration that we've also done with Evolve IT. And if you have that integration, all the friendly names and the inputs, all this information will be brought in automatically for you.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so you don't have to do that typing. But in our case, because we don't have that, we have to go ahead. We have two options here. I could leave everything like it is now and say, yes, I like how the fields are. I'm going to use WP001 for my first field and WP002 for my second field. Or I could do differently. I can come over here and I could say person ID. And I can go all the way down here and I can identify this. I think this is first, oops.
Probably first name.
First name, yep. This one is.
It's important to mention that this does not support a space because this is the context in the URL, so cannot have a space.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, you need to make sure that you do not put spaces in the names. It's because of it, when you use the URL, it doesn't like spaces. So make sure that you use names that are full names. That's something that I know becomes habit. So, okay.
You might also mention why we changed the usage.
What?
Because, well, 2E, both parameters are marked as input output. That can't be on a REST service.
Yeah, right. A REST service will not support input output. By default, when you read the RPG PCML, it has them as input output. So that's why we had to go ahead and change this. Now, if we had used a structure, like you're going to actually be using a structure because you're using an array. And if you pass it as a record, that becomes a structure within the program. You don't have to go down and rename it or you don't have to put input output for all of them. What it'll do is it'll have a parent that you set to input or output, and then all of the children below it are going to inherit from that parent. So then you don't have to use put input output for everything. So that's one nice thing about using a structure is you don't in here you don't have to do as much changes. You still do have to put the friendly name for every one of the fields if you want them. So that's a process. The other thing you need to do is you need to give this a name. So this is going to be something like add. Let's see. I'm doing this at an angle so my fingers aren't hitting the right keys all the time. Add person, and I'll put MS on mine because this will be the name of your module when it's deployed. And then we look at the method, and the method is going to be a post. And when you're doing your exercise today, you should set your produces to JSON. That's better supported in our exercise. That's how we actually created it so that when the values are returned in the get all people today, you want to be sure to have the JSON because it'll return the results in a JSON format. So I'm not really returning anything, but I just wanted to point that out for you today. All right, once you have everything, I'm just gonna, just for sake of time, I'm gonna put simple letters here. So,
blank and you will be.
Yeah, or I could use blank and it'll just cover the rest, it'll just fill out the rest of them. So let's go ahead and just do this. And you need to be sure, once you have set everything the way you want it, click this apply settings, and it will then, it tells me that there's some blank ones, so it's going to be filling those in with what was brought in. And I'll go ahead and close that. Yes, I want to do that. Okay.
Nice job there, Eric.
Yeah. So then now you see here that wherever I did not write a friendly name, it actually did bring in the information. It also gives you the information of that these are all path parameters, and it gives you the URL part template that goes to your specific resource, which is the add person. All right. So I'm having to look at two screens because one screen, everything's hidden or it's covered up. And the other screen, it doesn't want to move quite right. See if I can move this down. Trying to hit the little X and it won't let me hit the X. See on my screen, it's all covered up and I can't move the bar from.
I think you can do this. There is some hide floating meeting control.
There we go. Okay, now I can get to it. All right, there we go. Okay, so now once you do that definition, this turns yellow. The reason you saw it as yellow before was because I had actually, set this up before as a web service, and so it was yellow. But and actually, because when you're doing yours, you're going to have brand new web services. They're going to have different names, so they will not be yellow in the beginning. But once you define the web service, like I just did, then this service program will turn yellow. That way, that's your service program. That's a web service that you need to deploy. So since I'm in development right now, what I can do is and I have a web server at the development level. I can click this button right here, and it will install my web service in my development server. The reason we have this here is because we aren't going to be promoting any objects, because all our objects are currently in development. We have a web server over the development area. So we just want to deploy our service to development. So all we do is click this, and yes, we do want to deploy this to development. So then you click that process, and what it does first of all is it goes and uninstalls any service that it might exist with that name. Then it installs it. I really like this part. It's sort of nice because you can see what's happening as the process goes. And instead of, I mean, it does take a little bit of time, but if you remember on the IBMI tool, it takes actually longer than it does here in Matchpoint. So.
And most of the time, Matchpoint is actually waiting for the server to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of the time that we're here, IBM or Matchpoint is waiting for the web server to get information back to us. So now what we do is we validate it. So it's been deployed. So now we're going to validate that this has been a successful promotion. And it'll tell us that it did promote correctly once it's done here.
I think it's below, because this log message, you can kind of reduce the size.
Yeah. Oops, that made it bigger. All right, so here we go. So it was just behind the message. So this tells us, yeah, this web service has been installed. It tells you that it's running. It tells you the service name, a bunch of different information about it. And here are the configuration that we set it up as. So that has now been installed. So in the development server, then you could start testing using this web service. So, well, we don't want to just stay with development. We want to move this on to QA to get the other people testing it. So at this point, it's time to move it to QA. So what you need to do is you need to modify your change request. And you're going to set this from development to, let's see, what did we have? Testing. Right. And you see that we're in the development environment. So
I think you don't need to, I think we changed that, and you don't need to change right now. So from development, it's moving to testing.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because this is a new database.
Yeah. All right. So in this case, there's many ways you can set up your promotion path. And so I'm used to having it where I always have to go back in and change the status to be able to go to the next level
process that you want to promote.
Yeah. So let's see, it'll tell us if we have to change it or not. So, no, wait, so it didn't say that it was a bad message. It didn't give us a bad message. So what it's doing
is if you go back, there is one of the things that Matchpoint actually has is that you can have the same object promoting multiple change requests. Just wait there, And Matchpoint is telling Mark right now that the same object as is moving is actually in another change requests that are not promoted. So just to let him know, if he wants to promote that object before any other developer is working with that object and to avoid any conflict. So he's asking Mark, okay, these are the change requests. What this same object is, do you want to continue? You can click continue, and Matchpoint will promote this instead of and let the other developer know that that object has been promoted from a new change request.
Okay, good. All right, so now you see we were waiting for, now I answered, and now it's been deleted and promoted. Now it's uninstalling the web service and installing the new service. We're going into the QA, and I'll stop at the QA environment. I mean, we could obviously go to the production, but it's going to be the same process where all you do is click on that one promote button.
Things that is happening here is just moving the object for the next environment, and it's detecting that one of the objects that is being moved from one environment to the next is actually a web service. So it's doing the extend promotion process that is going to actually install the web service if the receiving environment actually has a web server definition to be receiving that. If the next environment doesn't have web server definition, it's just going to tell you, okay, this is a web service, but the environment that we're moving to doesn't have a web server, so it's not going to install, just going to move the module and the service program from this change request.
Yeah, so that's nice. So you can have a mix of environments. And the one place I've set it up, that's what they do is they have some where they have web services, some where they don't actually have the web server. So I can still promote all the way up with Matchpoint, and it just skips, or I mean, it moves the objects, but it doesn't try to install into a web server when there's none that exists. So, yeah, so it's pretty smart that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if I wanted to move to production, then I would just have to click this promote again. And what it would do then is it would probably give me that same definition that I already have it up there. And it would ask me if I want to override. And then it would do the promote of objects. And once the objects are promoted, then it does a promotion, then the web service installation. So that's the basic process for Matchpoint. Anybody have any questions before we go on to the next step of this? I see there's some.
I'm just sending the exercise.
Okay. I just checked on the chat just to see if anyone had any. Okay, and it doesn't sound like there's any questions right now. So Eric, I think it's your turn to take the next step. So see if I can get to the point where I can room stop. So we made this small, so now it's really small. Okay.
I can share now.
You can?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, go ahead and share.
You need to
Yeah, I
stop.
need to stop. I'm trying to figure out how to stop.
Okay, yeah, because you hide the
Yeah, because we hid this.
Can you go up? I think there's here, some here. No.
Nothing like having technical difficulties in an IT.
The screen is the size.
Yeah, the screen size is so small on mine.
I'm going to go ahead and just throw back to my original, the end slide on my first presentation, which is, I think we should sacrifice a goat.
I think so. Okay. How can I get that bigger now?
Can you do
Let's
this?
see.
Or bean sprout if you're a vegan.
Oh.
Or can you hover on the top? No, just hover on the top. See if,
Oh, yeah.
one of
I've eaten some of that stuff. It
shouldn't
tofu
be
cold.
all right.
It should not be this hard to change from different views of
Yeah.
Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here, I'm gonna,
You think that will solve?
I don't know if that'll solve it or not. No, it seems like it should. There we go. Now you should be able to get to it.
No,
No, you can't get to it yet?
no, it looks like it's still sharing something there.
Huh. It's strange. Okay.
Maybe if you go to Zoom, yep,
And it still comes up in the small version.
and right click it.
I'll just do this for the moment.
Okay, leave.
There you go.
Okay.
Now you can get to it.
Yeah, we actually have to kill.
We had to kill my whole session, so, all right.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to try to consume the web service that you're going to create. The one that we're going to consume is the one that is going to be called get people, and then we'll have your initial at the end. So this is very important to follow, right? One thing that we are using here, we're doing this from Plex, and we're having a Plex Java generated application. So we're using the JSON, Java libraries. This is a library that you can use to parse all the JSON information that is coming from the web servers. So from any web server, you can have those as class and put it into the Plex object. This do require some workaround, but that is already included in the model, in the Plex model. And we will just inherit from a couple of patterns to be able to have all this functionality. One thing that we're going to use is, beside Plex, we're going to use Eclipse in your machine. Okay, you have the same problem as okay. So in your machine, you will have access to this component. For example, you will have access to Eclipse, right? You will have access, if you have any question, they just run, and then you will get the workspace that we're going to use. We're doing this because it's easier instead of compiling everything and make an executable jar from Plex. We're just doing through Eclipse. And Plex is here. You just open and you will be able to load the model, right? So just to show you what we are going to end up with, once you open Eclipse, there is going to be something called run configuration. We will run and test the, sorry, I'm not seeing. How can we make this? I think I can move this, right? Okay, I can move this. We will have this run configuration, and the one that we're going to run right now, the first thing we're just going to test is the WS demo, which actually includes already a compile function and a generated function from Plex that will actually get the people. As you remember, Mark said that he has an array of 30 objects, but we only have like 4 or 5 records in that database. So there is some code in Plex that is actually making sure that if the record is empty, it doesn't going to add it to the grid. So what this is going to happen, don't you worry about any error that you see here. This is just trying to connect to the server, but we don't need actual database connection, so don't worry about that. Okay, so you will see here, once I run this application, where is it? Okay, here it is. So you will see this in Eclipse that when I run this and I get people, it's going to actually go to the web service, okay, and get the JSON. This is just for you to see the JSON that we're going to get from the web server, right? As Mark mentioned, this is an array. So this is an array of multiple objects. If we put this in, if we put this in a beautifier, we will see that this is actually multiple objects getting read from the actual web servers and then populated in the actual grid in a Plex window, okay? This will be the final result. To be able to get to that, there's some instruction there, okay? We will first run the demo. The demo is show what is going to happen. Then we will create a function in the CA Plex. There's all the steps to create a function. I know that first time for somebody to use Plex, so try to put all the detail, try to create some kind of detailed process to be able to create the function. And then we are going to do something very important, that we're going to define an implementation name of the file. The actual Java class will need to have this file name, because this is how it's configured in Eclipse. So it's very important for you to have that kind of that definition there. There's explain why. And then we will just have a panel kind of function from Plex. We will just adjust the size of that. And then we will create a button to be able to call the web service. We will define the text property to have exactly get people. Then we'll give an event. The way that Plex works is any logical event has to be triggered by a physical event. Okay, so we need to map the physical with the logical, and there is all the steps to do that. And then there is some code. I just put the text that you're going to copy because you may have some issues just trying to type it, but I'm going to try to explain what we are doing here. So what we are doing here in Plex, the button that we create is going to be mapped to this logical event. This logical event is going to be triggered when the button is pressed. And the first thing we're going to read is going to call the data, the web server, right? We're going to get the data from the web server. And then only then, if we get data from the web server, so we have an array that has values in it, we're going to process that. And we're going to get all the values from the web server, and then we're going to add them to the grid. Okay, so it's not reading database; we're just reading the data from the web server, and then we're appending that to the grid. If you can type this, that is okay. If not, you can just copy this, and that will be enough. This is the place where we need to copy. Plex uses the same kind of thing as edit point. We're going to select that. To navigate in Plex, you just is kind of select a folder and then just press the space bar, and it will just expand that, and you will be able to show the first thing is execute, event handler, and then postpone.
Can you actually demo some of that? Because a lot of people haven't necessarily touched Plex, so they won't. The navigation is going to be really different for some.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those whose only experience have been Obsidian,
It's a little different than Obsidian, right?
well, it'll work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just so for a 2E guy that's not done any web services before or really gotten into Plex, this workshop is like pretty overwhelming. Can we see what the end result is of all of this effort?
Actually, yeah. Go ahead and show your.
They did show the one screen. It had
Yeah.
the box with 3 records in it. That was it.
That was
Yeah.
it, yeah. So this is generated by what you will do in 2E, this part, all this information that is created from the program that you're going to publish as a web service. And then I'm reading this, or we are reading this from a Plex point of view, and then processing that as this is what data that is being able to move from application to application through web services. That's the main idea. And there is the step to test the final result. This is what you will get. You will have a panel where you get people. Just don't mind any error that you may see here. This is just
Yeah. So in the end, what's happening is web service that we created in 2E, we deployed it to a web server. We're going with Eclipse there, he was showing how we go to the web server and it brings back a result. It's bringing back a list of people. And then he's able to take that list of people, that result, and add it into a Plex screen. And on this, the get people, that actually is what's firing to go and run the web service.
exactly.
And then it's bringing back the results into the Plex panel instead of bringing it back into Eclipse or, I mean, there's multiple tools you can use to call web services.
Yeah.
So
The advantage to all this, and I'm talking about somebody that recently left just the green screen world to come work with all these folks. But there are a multitude of ways that you can pull data from an eye into web-based stuff. Where I worked, we had a lot of SQL calls directly to the box, and they work. But web services are great because you can do all of the heavy lifting in the code that we all understand. And then the web service gives, and with no disrespect to Mr. Gyron over here, I heard this at another thing, the green-haired guys with the piercings that do the web development work, they understand how to get our data then. And it's a nice meeting point. So especially for you being a one-man band in your company, if they want to do a lot of web-based stuff and they bring in outsiders, this is a technique you really need to study. You don't, the Plex is great. And, again, I see them first. Yeah, I'd love to see you get Plex. But otherwise, this gives you an easy way to reliably give data to the other side of the world, and they'll understand how to get it.
You just need to provide the
Perfect,
parameters.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So on our T side, like Jonathan was saying, we do our work the way we're used to doing it. And then we expose it through a web service. And then we give to Eric, who's a Plex guy or a web guy or whoever wants to get our data, then we can let them pull data from our system in a secure way.
Yes, that's what.
And that's one of the big things is it's a secure way if you do your work correctly.
Yeah.
It's a controlled way.
Controlled way.
Controlled way.
Yeah.
And you're not playing with SQL calls and all that, because we were doing that. And if something breaks, this delineates the interchange point.
Right. And so the reason we're doing this Plex part is, one is I wanted to get you a little exposure to Plex, because it is, for a lot of companies, that's the next place people are going. But also I wanted to show how web services can be done in different platforms or different methods.
Yeah.
So
it can be done in C#, Visual Studio, anything that you want to consume, it can be done. We just want to make or add Plex into the mixture just for you to see, have an idea how to do this. Okay, so I'm going to go real quick over what we're going to do. So the first thing is there is already a local model. That's the way that Plex has a local model that is a working copy of the object that you can have or change properties. The properties are defined as triple, kind of the same as you define the properties in a database relationship in 2E, where you have the source, the bearer, and the target. That's the way that Plex normally works. Okay, you will open the model, and then there is something called model editor. The model editor will have all the properties that all the objects in Plex has, and from here you can create the objects. There is one thing about triple. This is what a triple is called in Plex. So we have a source, a verb, and a target, and this define the relationship between the source and the target, but doesn't define the actual objects itself. So you can delete the triple, but just deleting the relationship of those two objects, but the object will still exist in Plex, right? So that's kind of the difference between triples. Triples are kind of properties of objects and not the objects itself. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a function that is going to be name web service test, okay? And this is where I start to add property to that function. As you know, Plex has inheritance, so there's an easy way to do that. So we just define the isAttriple. This is going to add all the properties from the parent that I'm inheriting from. In this case, we already have a pattern that is going to be called _grid, the presenter. That will create the, oops. Web service.
it already exists, yeah.
Web service test, okay, web service test. G.
Yeah, since it already exists, we have to give it another name.
Okay, so I created the object and the object created the relationship. Now we're going to actually double click this just to focus on that. Just focus on that object. And then in the exercise, we define a couple of more properties that is going to be implementation name. The implementation name is the actual name of the Java class in this case, because this is a Java generated object, and that is going to be VSWS test. If I remember correctly from the actual, this is very important. The name is very important. So just let me make sure I'm doing that correctly. So, okay, this is grid, web service test, grid, and then,
WS test.
Okay. That is going to be the implementation name, and then it's going to be the file name, the actual file that is going to be called. This is the way that Plex does. So it uses the implementation name to the internal call. So how Plex identify how to call one function or the other is using the implementation name. And the file name can be different than the implementation name, but the file name is actually the final file that is created, source or binary that is created or compiled. Okay, so by this, we just add a lot of functionality to our function. Let me just try to follow this. Okay, so we did that. Then we adjust the panel size. By inheritance, this grid already include a panel. So I select my object and I press F9 or press the editor. All that is defined in the documentation. And here I have the action diagram. This kind of the same as 2E, where you have edit point and what do you call subroutines or I don't know.
User points.
User points.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how Plex people say it's an action diagram like 2E, but you know, it's a little bit more complex.
Okay, so this is the action diagram. Normally a UI function in Plex will have two components. They will have the action diagram. This is the logic of the program, and then we have the panel that is actually the user interface that is going to be work with that. So in the work, we're going to just make sure to adjust this. This is just sizing kind of process. And then we're going to add a button. So you can right click wherever you want to create the button, you push button, right? That is just creating that button. You can move it, you can resize it, okay? And then you can change the text property because this is going to say get people, okay? Oops.
Basically, think of 2E on steroids.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing, like I mentioned, all the logic in Plex is triggered by physical events. So there is no logic that can, if I want to fire a logic in Plex, I need to create a physical event. Sorry, I need to associate a logical event with a physical event. For that, I select the object. All the object in Plex I select, there will be this event mapping. And depending on the type of object, will have different physical events, right? All the object will have their own physical event defined by the type of object there are. So in this case, the button will have the press, and we will create an event, right? The event is going to be called get people. This is the logical event. Okay, and then we associate that physical with the logical, and we click OK. So now there's the map between what is happening or what the user can interact and what the logic will do, okay? Once we have that, based on the documentation, we're going to resize, we're going to create the button, all that, we're going to map that, and then we're going to add some code, okay? To add some code, we're just going to be able to, once we map, we go back. If we see the windows, we will be able to go to action diagram, or we can press F11 and go to the diagram here. And to navigate, in execute event handler. The event handler is the way that Plex handles all the events that happen.
And how do you open up each of those sections?
With the space bar. So you
Okay.
just select when there is a folder, as you can see, this is an empty one, and this has something in it. When this is an empty one, you will see that is empty, but if there is kind of a field, kind of a folder, there is some content. So we will select that edit point execute, and then we will see the event handler, press the space bar, and then we will see this PostPoint view, then PostPoint, sorry, then press space bar. And we want to copy all the text that I put there here. Just make sure that this is here. So the documentation say refresh this, select this, and then copy and then paste. What you're going to paste is this code. All of this code actually does all the magic in Plex. I'm going to try to explain. Make sure you copy everything, because all of this has some specific. What's happening? I cannot copy.
I know, it's sort of hard.
Okay, so just select that and you will copy that here. And that will copy everything. If there is an error, just let me know. There is an error in the dialog box. Looks like some files, some field are missing. HTTP status is there. Or the dialog message. Maybe the dialog message was not promoted. We have some issues with the lab, but this is not a big problem. You can just ignore that. And what is happening here, I know this is going to sound kind of complex, but just to show you that with Plex, you can actually use external libraries, right? That's the kind of the idea of this demo. So you will have, for example, this specific source code that is going to use some special Java code to be able to get the information from the web server, from the web service, process that, and then send that information back to another one that is going to actually process each of the object from the actual web servers. As you can see, person ID, all that information is mapped back. All of this will always be kind of do the same way in Plex. If you're using the JSON libraries, that's what we are using. So it's a library that will allow, once we have the JSON from the web service, this JSON library allow us to actually parse that and be able to move to different objects in Plex. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. Then we just have a while loop that is if there is data, then process all the record that we have. Okay, if not, then don't do nothing. It will just send a dialog message. Then it's just having a counter here that is going to make sure that this while is processed. So as you can see, while person count is less than people count, and then we have the add one every time we process. So that loop will be in. If there is data in it, it's going to add that to the actual
Grid.
to the grid, yeah,
Yep.
to the actual grid. And then when all that process finishes, it's going to refresh that. When that is done in Plex, you will save all the change in the action diagram. You will save all the change in the panel, and then you will find this. You will open another tool that is called Generate and Build. You will look for the functions. That is the one that you created. And then view, object type, calgraph, all that is in documentation. This will generate any function that we require, right? Not just the one that we create, it will generate any function that we require. Then generate that. And that's all you will need to do in Plex. Then we move to Eclipse. We will right-click the object, refresh to get the latest code that we generated from there. Okay. And then we will going to run the web service test, because that is the one that is going to actually use the newly generated function. And you will have this function, the new one that you created, and this get people will call the web service and just show that information in looks like we're having more data in it. Or I did something wrong. Just bear with me a moment.
Looks like it's coming back several times.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just let me check that. If we need to make a fix, we will do that. So event, okay, I did something wrong there. I didn't copy everything correctly. So as you can see, yeah, that was my mistake. Okay. So we need to go to execute, go into event handler, postpoint, and we need to make sure that we copy everything. I missed something there. As you can see, I missed the very beginning of the sentence. So that's the reason why the copy didn't work correctly. And let me see if I can select everything right away.
Yeah, well, it's
Copy.
yeah, that's why.
Okay, if you have any kind of problem like that, just make sure that you will see the difference here. So as you can see, there is now, this is what was missing. Okay, the event get people was missing there. And that's because I didn't copy everything from that. Okay, just generate again. Okay, and then go here and just refresh.
Then you have to refresh, yeah.
Yep.
Every time you recompile, you have to
Yeah,
refresh,
every
right?
time you recompile, you need to refresh that. And then just run now the web test service demo and get people, and that's it. And
Okay.
this is just showing what we get from the web service. This data you will see from the web service, this is what you will be doing from the 2E and Matchpoint point of view. And that will be the end of the exercise.
All right, so you guys got some work ahead of you. Let's see. See, it's about 10:15 right now. Why don't we take a break? And as soon as you're done, you can get back and get started, because you have your connection to the 2E on your system. Well, first of all, everybody's going to need to connect to the VMs that we sent out. And once you get connected to there, you're going to have all the tools in front of you. You're going to have your connection to our system. You're going to have Plex. You're going to have Matchpoint. And so then you can get started. I'm not going to really time this. We'll just continue on. And I'm sure there's going to be questions along the way. So please, let us know when you have a question. If you get stuck somewhere, let us know. If you get stuck and you just can't proceed, we can always show your screen and then we'll talk through. And that's actually a really good learning point, is if you guys get stuck and we have to talk through fixing something or modifying a process, we'll do that with everybody. So
in summary, what we are doing from the web service point of view is just the same program that you have, being able to provide information to external users that can be consumed. And that is what the web service is actually going to do from the 2E part. And from the Plex, we're just consuming that information. And like I mentioned, we could use any other tool. We decide to use Plex to consume that information from the web server that you will create. And another thing that I want to mention is about the naming of the parameter. There is something in the exercise related to that, and that is very important to keep the name, because normally when you publish something, you will try to keep that structure. You cannot change the structure of a web service because the consumer will have issues with that. So when you create your web service in page, which page is this? Page 10. Make sure that the friendly name is defined exactly like there is, because in the actual way that we have, as I told you, normally when you publish something, you will have the same structure, and that structure is already defined in all of our classes. So we have that specific information expected to come from the web service. If you change something, we will need to change the source code. That is not a problem, but just let you know that if we change something, we will need to change the code that we have to make it work. Okay, that's all I wanted to mention.
all right. Any questions as we go forward then?
I have a question. Just
Sure.
From a really high level.
Yeah.
The idea of this workshop is in 2E, we're going to read a file, populate an array, send it to looks like a text file on the IFS. And then in your case, Plex is going to read that text file and present the data.
Actually, not exactly. We're going to read the file, yes, but then that results is not going to go to the IFS. It's going to go directly to Plex through the web service.
So we're not using any type of AS400 specific to be able to consume that information. This is actually a general information. In this case, is going to be expose or produce a JSON file. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So this is just a text representation of the actual records that the 2E program is actually processing, and put it in the array. And that array is going to publish that to the web, and anybody can consume that because it's a REST web service. As long as they have the correct parameter, they will be able to read that information, and that will be processed as a normal function in 2E, right? There is no actual special requirements, just a program that is actually being defined as a service program that is going to publish information in the web.
Yeah. So by taking that service program and exposing it as a web service, we're able to have direct access into data that we define someone is able to get to. So
to a new URL.
Actually, yes, it's just a URL that's used to do this.
Okay, and is the web service on 2E a separate licensing, or is it part of the current 2E?
The service programs and so forth are just regular 2E programs. Matchpoint is a separate product. So there are multiple ways you can promote or deploy web services. 2E has one built in. We have the Matchpoint process, and then IBMI has a process where you can deploy a program as a web service. And so those are just three different ways. The reason we created Matchpoint is because it's so much easier to be consistent with what you're doing in deploying. And that you don't have to go and deploy, actually go to the IBM tool, enter all the information every single time you want to deploy to a new environment. Like, because you're always going to have a development, test, and a production server at least. I mean, some places even have more. But this way, it's easy to deploy. Yeah, what Eric's showing right now is the tool or the web server. So you could actually come here, and if you click on the Manage Deployed Services, there's an option to deploy a web service here. And it takes you through about 15 different screens that you have to fill data in.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the point of deploying the service. And so we wanted to make it easier to deploy the service, because I know as a 2E developer, I don't want to go through everything every time. I want to have that assistance along the way. So
the idea of the web service is to have an easy way to share information or expose information to the public that can be consumed by any kind of client. In this case, we're consuming from a Plex point of view, but you can consume that as with any kind of language, and even manually you can actually consume and see the actual. If we have, for example, if we make a test of that, so we have this. This is something that you're going to change that. Yeah, I have the URL.
Okay.
So, for example, all this, whenever a user actually enter this URL or request this URL, this is actually going to the 2E application, 2E program, doing the process that the 2E has, and then sending back information using that URL. Okay, so when anybody can consume that, because that can be public URL, they will be able to pass information from your legacy or your current application into it to any new kind of client that you may want to create, for example, in C# or in Plex, something like that.
Yeah, so like I have one customer that they've built this whole big front end that their customers see, and we have hundreds of actual web services behind the scenes that they call, and so then they've been able to build a .NET application, and the customers see something totally different than what people inside the company see.
This stuff is
so it was a good way to deploy information. All the web services are built in 2E. We've used 2E developers all along the way, and then we have the front end people that just consume what we expose to them. So,
okay.
So it really becomes a good way to open up the data within your application.
Maintaining the same logic that you already have for years or years in the 2E.
Yes. Yeah. And in a lot of cases, what we've done is we've used, external functions that were already out there that got data for us. And we then added those into web services. So in some cases, building the web service wasn't that much extra work, because we already had external functions that, pulled data for us. So. Oh, good questions, though, Russ. Yeah.
So I'm trying to get my head around this, because again, I've not done web servicing, but I'm, how I mentioned before in my presentations, I'm looking at doing some sort of move to the right, move to the left of my display file.
Right.
I want to be able to go to a URL and pull up a quote display file, but in a URL GUI environment.
Okay. Yes.
So that's what I think is happening here until you start going into the Plex worlds.
Yeah, that basically is. I mean, without going into the Plex world, you see here that we are going to 2E through that get people web service, and then we are bringing back the data that's over there on the 2E system.
Plex is just presenting that data in a way that the people can understand, but the same process can be done for any other client.
Yeah, so you could have a JavaScript client, that would be a real common way, is having some kind of JavaScript that would consume this, or we're using Java in this case through Plex, .NET, as I mentioned. So there's any number of different ways that someone can call this URL and get the data.
Okay.
And once they get the data, then they can format it and, do whatever you want with it at that point. So, I mean, we can also create web services that, add and change data. With those, you have to be sure you have the security around it. So in our exercise, we don't have really the security around it. I've just been teaching the concepts of how to, put the pieces together. The security, that's going to be a whole new thing if you let people add and change data. So, but still with 2E, we're still controlling a fair bit of that because we're only letting certain things happen.
Okay, very interesting concept. Right now, what happens, like I have a .NET set of people.
Right.
And they do the whole web design and create whatever captured data. And then what they do is plop that on the IFS and I just pick it up and process it in 2E. So that kind of would eliminate that middle step. And they would just go and grab from my database on the IBMI.
Yeah.
Right now it's two separate entities, SQL Server and IBMI.
Yeah, you've walked the same path we did.
Okay, so that's why this is getting me a little excited, but I just need to wrap my head around it as a 5250 guy.
Oh yeah, this, they'll understand when you tell them you can give them a RESTful web service. They know exactly how to do the calls to it, and at the back end, they never see what you do. All you do is deliver data to them.
And then if you look in here, let's see. Oh, you can't really see the names, but the names that are going to be exposed to them are going to be those friendly names. So they're, with if you deploy it that way with friendly names, yeah, you can see like SSN, date of birth, person ID, first name. Those are what we added into Matchpoint so that when the people get their data back, they can actually tell it. They don't have to look at field, WPXYZ,
Yeah.
So they'll really like that.
Yeah, you will be a hero. and you're still, and the thing is, then you're still in charge because they're not mucking around and you don't have to play with the IFS or anything like that, and granted, I was playing with this on an 8202, a single core machine that, had some limitations. And I discovered that if we had done this with our own work, the performance would have been damn good. I was sorry we never did it because, we didn't have the biggest machine in the world. And we could have done a lot better, believe me. In fact, the partition you guys are working on today is 20% of a 3800 CPW 8202E4C with about 40% of I think 32 gig of memory. That's what you're playing with.
All right. So we have a couple hours here yet for you guys to build your application. If the Plex part becomes too complex,
Yeah, you don't need to go to
you don't need to go to that. You can at least go to the point where you can get the URL and then you can, we'll publish it to the web with Matchpoint. We'll get the URL and then we can have you look at least from the web browser. So you want to make sure you can start with the 2E application published as a web service first of all, and then we can go from that point.
Okay, I'm just going to send in the chat all the user password that you can use in the AS400 and in the Matchpoint. Okay, it's going to be the same user. And the same password that we have created for the attendees right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to send this in the chat for you to have it.
Yeah, and as long as
that to be able to have different access.
Yeah.
In the AS400 and I don't know how.
So I like this.
You can just leave that up there too.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just leave it up here so you can see which is your user ID to log into the 400.
4C.
So,
We only had 32 gig of memory
so
total.
we'll start, like Christie has train 01
They've got-
or train 01. And our system, you have to be sure it's case sensitive for the passwords. So you need to be sure to have it all caps.
I know. I remember we had, 4 gig of RAM. 4 gig of disk.
So,
Yeah, I know.
so feel free to take a break for a few minutes if you want to, and then we'll get back, you can get back on, and as you have questions, or, let's be sure to get any questions you have covered so that you can understand the process. And that's really what I want you to understand is today, the process to get a TUI program into a web service. And then it's good to see, that end point, we can deploy it in some method. So, all right. So we'll be here in the room if you have any questions along the way.
Probably babbling loudly to ourselves.
Yes. There's some waters right over there,
Okay.
A couple of bottles here. They're probably warm, but they're there.
but they're water.
Yeah.
Now, since we are in the conference, there's a little kitchen right over there. We should go in there and grab some stuff, right?
Yeah. Sharing, it's a good Christian thing to do.
That is. Ugh.
The only annoying thing I find with web services, just in general,
Yeah,
and this is nothing to do with probably anything here, is the fact that you have to, when the wizard runs for IBM,
yeah,
it's hard coding where the object is. When you define the service,
Right.
it hard codes the name, the object that it's attaching it to.
right. But you have to put the library where things are going to be.
Right.
Yeah,
Put the library in.
right.
You're hard coding to the object instead of being able to define it to say this and it fall through using the job description.
Right.
That's the problem when you need to want to promote or move that.
Yes,
because
when
So-
you, that's one of the issues I have is that when we move, objects are moved from environment to environment, there's nothing left because normally it would fall through the library list. But
Yeah.
with web services, you can't. Web service is hard coded. Yes,
But
setting up and I'm like explaining to them, I have to have a service in, I'm defining you have a server for development web services that point to the objects. of
Exactly.
Development, I have to
Yes.
have one in test, I have to have one in production.
right, exactly.
And I have to keep the object there if you want this to work because
Yeah.
it calls a fully qualified object.
That is true. Yeah. So you had to keep your objects
That
in
is-
the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those listening on the phone, I will give one suggestion. Before you get, if you're thinking of going into web services, which you should be thinking of doing, and you're planning it as part of your modernization idea, one of the things you want to start doing first is disconnecting your core business logic from the displays. So if you've got a screen, it's okay, you want code in your screen, but they should be for validating or processing, validating what's happening on the screen. But the actual business logic, the rules, you want to encapsulate that as an external routine as your first step. Because once you break the concept that I have a display and I have code, my program, it makes it much, much easier as you're taking the next set of steps. We are going through that process right now with an app we have, which has gone from its initial piece, which was an app on an iPad that was directly reading and writing to the database, to an HTML page that's hosted on our site that is calling the web service. But the HTML page literally does nothing but validate the input, did you type a phone number in? Is this?
So we've gone
10
through
digits, right?
showing
Is this
them
the phone number?
everything. Now they're in the process
All
of
it's
doing their.
is just validating what. the
So we're just
resources
here
are.
saying,
Then it calls to service. Because the next step is, well, now that I've got those disconnected,
yeah, they've been.
I can change whatever the front end
Got
is.
like,
I can call something else. I can
11.
put in a Salesforce app that in turn calls the same, I don't have to change my backend logic.
Correct.
This allows you to maximize your investment and that business logic on the eye, and you keep the business logic and your data tightly married together because that's where it's supposed to be. But the interface and what they're using, let them come up with whatever they want because, hey, do this, validate this information, but here's what the business requires when we go to validate or do whatever, you call this routine, and it will vastly improve your ability to move out. Because by doing that, your core business doesn't change, the interface does. You can start slapping whatever new cool idea that the guy read on the back of the magazine on first class. You know, your CIO read something in hemispheres on his last business trip and has decided that's what we want to do.
Exactly.
Hey, great, that's an interface. We'll put that over here. I don't have to change the business in the back end.
Yeah.
The other half of that is, and this is my big argument for it all the time, is that you shouldn't have anybody accessing your database directly that isn't the developer for the database.
That's a big thing right there. Yeah.
You immediately lose the ability to make a change to the database because you now don't know what is that guy over there with, as John put it, the green hair and the piercings. How is he accessing, how is he using my data? And how is he getting to it? And what happens if I change it?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I don't like it when they just go directly into the database.
I can't change, I can't change my database because now I have to wait for them and coordinate with them on their schedule. It's like, but I only have to make this change and it's that, and I'm already done, but now I got to wait for you and I'm backed up because we have to test all these changes. And because now I've started a file change, I can't deploy this. And now I've got everything backing up behind it because you're running behind.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does give a real level of control when we can we determine what is exposed.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, you'll make a change to the database that has nothing to do with your web service.
Yeah,
requires nothing more than, okay, well, I just need to recompile it because it's accessing these files. My code is going to suppress all that because it doesn't change the ins and outs. I don't have to tell them I've done anything. They're not a part of the conversation.
And the other thing that normally happens is that one of the main requests is we need to get out of the legacy component. And now by doing web service, you kind of avoid being legacy because you can have any cool stuff that the people see, but you still have your logic that you've been working for a long time.
Yes, you haven't lost that system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What the screen scrapers and Web2E and Presto and all those other products did was not change your business. What they did is they addressed the perception problem. That the technology you're running on is old. And you figure this has been a true 64-bit OS since what, V5?
I think that's when it was.
5.4? No, 6.0 was when it did, because that was when the 6.1, which was how many years, how many decades ago that 6.1 popped up. And that's because there was the mass recompile to observability. So 6.1 was the big, going from 5.4 to 6.1 was a big deal. And even before that, the move from CISC to RISC was the big, and you were going from already a 32-bit operating system to a 64-bit operating system. That was before Windows was even fully 32-bit.
Yeah.
So you've always been, the hardware has always been light years ahead of the Windows world and things like that. But it's the perception that the green screen is somehow, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and make it so that we run on this system here, and we'll give you all these APIs. It's not web services anymore. If you really talk to them now, it's the same thing, but we've changed the name to API.
Right.
That's really, this is a REST API, not a REST web service. Otherwise, they may look at you as web service. What book were you reading? You don't call that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Nowadays, it is more correctly called an API.
Yeah. Although it really is.
It's not nothing different. It's just the name.
Yeah, and well, AS400.
Yeah. How many of us still call it
Well,
AS400?
it's still an AS400 because that's the original name. And really the core of the body hasn't changed. And what it is hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
But they've rebranded it at every couple of years. It has to be rebranded.
What is the last or current name of?
It's the I.
Yeah.
Yeah. The I.
Or you could say,
System
it's a power.
AS400 I series, System I.
iOS. Yeah.
Some people use Power 7 or Power whatever.
Yeah, because the box is called the Power whatever processor. So the Power 10 is the current. A lot of people are moving to Power 9 right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what I'm running in Abacus. I think it's either a Power 8 or a Power 9.
I wouldn't be surprised if they got you on the 9.
Well, the machine type is a 9009, which probably means but you see the Power 7 was an 8202.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's still its own set of headaches, trying to get them because, just like the P level, or your P10 is a P20.
Oh, I know, yeah.
But that's even messed because the Power 9s are so strong that Power 9 at a P10 is a Power 8 is like a P20.
Yeah, yeah.
CPW processing power.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous set of trying to figure out what is, and then of course, it's the operating system power.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the IBMI.
Yeah.
It's the iOS.
Yeah, it's
No, it's
because they own that. But it's
Yeah.
IBMI V7R4
Mod 0.
TR4 is I think the current version.
Yeah, we're basically, I've been able to get ours to, I think we're about, let me just see here real quick.
Because TR4 only came out in September, at the end of September, just before Colin. Because I'm not getting that until January. Because nobody wants to be the first guy to put the technology refresh on.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
Yes.
sorry, having tech dumb user here. How do I get on your AS400 through this VM?
Okay. Go ahead and bring your VM up. I want to see exactly what we have there.
Mine?
Yeah. Yeah. Share your screen. Yep. All right.
At the top, IBM.
Access Client Solutions. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
what I was-
did you configure?
Yes.
Okay. So it should be configured to go to our.
Yeah, this takes a while.
Yeah, CMF04.
Yep.
Just go ahead and go to the 5250 for that.
Okay.
And if it wakes up, you should get a green screen.
Well, it's loading Java for the first pass.
Yes.
So
Okay, and let's see, what was your user number?
Just TRN 04.
All right.
Okay,
TRN04, make sure to uppercase it because this one's case sensitive.
Yeah. Okay. So I was correct, but it's just
Give it a
kind of
second.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
There is one problem.
oh, yeah, I know.
There is, let me share my screen so I can show you what may happen. Sometimes the VPN doesn't connect directly.
Yeah, it was validation.
Yeah, it was,
Credentials, it was.
yeah, I think the VPN wasn't connected.
Okay, so
Oh.
there is a VPN connection to be able to connect to that, and sometimes looks like it's not doing correctly. So this has to, there is a green, I don't know if it's visible, but this. has
Yeah,
to be
you can see
green.
it down there. Yep.
So if you right click that, if not green, just right click this and do connect, and that will automatically connect to the VPN. Maybe that's.
Okay,
the
yeah,
problem.
that's why it wasn't working.
So it can take some time, but once it's done, you will see this assign. Okay.
Now it should work.
Well, that was on Eric's. So now,
Oh,
Sorry, yeah, can you go through that? I'm just trying to close out right now.
Yep.
So where do I get that?
The bottom
Oh.
right, do you see the bottom right on
Oh,
the
here,
arrows?
okay.
Yeah,
And then connect, oh, I gotta connect to VPN, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Some virtual machine didn't connect automatically, so you just need to connect it. It's not going to require password because it's already defined and all the stuff. And once connected, you're going to see that green and you're going to be assigned an IP, and then you should be able to connect to the CMF4. Did it work?
Still trying, oh, yeah, I've got the password, good, thanks.
All right,
Okay.
Good.
great. And it should take you right to 2E when you log in.
So let's take with test with one TRN 20.
Do you have TRN 20 working?
No, TR 20 is
What's the highest number you have working?
14.
14.
14.
There you go.
There, yep.
Okay.
All right. And then what happens if you have 3? Try that out. Huh?
Log you out.
Yep, just logs you out. You know, we have to keep these conference people honest, right?
Of course.
That's why you haven't given me access.
I have
That's
the
right.
advantage of having 3 screens for this Zoom call, which I think you kind of need for this.
Yeah, that would be good. Yes, it would have cut down on some of our issues if we had multiple screens. Yeah, that's right. So you're not able, you don't have a VM or anything yet?
No, but
Okay.
don't worry about it. I gotta go talk to Mark.
What was I going to do here? Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I was
All
trying
right.
to do.
Step out just a bit. Bathrooms are right around here if you ever.
Then go down, turn left, they're all the way down at the end.
There. Where are the?
Right over that way. Find my mask.
Yeah, yes, we are at Technology Refresh 10,
Okay,
7.3, and I think 11 is on the CDs I've got. So we're
gonna be up there till 11, all right?
we are going to be current
For
one.
CM for the latest machine.
Well, that's
Our machines, yeah.
all 4.
Okay.
Because, well, remember, 2 partitions, me, 2 partitions, just 1 partition on CMF01, because CMF02 is running, I think, 7.2. But once I have console access, I want to PTF it and get it.
There is some issues with CMF1, right? There needs to be hardware issues that is making that kind of really slow.
Well, that's why I'm going tomorrow.
Okay.
They cache batteries.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I have. And you see, CMF04 started warning me beginning of the month. I just found out yesterday because I happened to look at the HMC, and it's now 68 days. So I was talking with Chris Carlson. They had one. It's going to be delivered today. So I have to replace 3 batteries tomorrow.
Really? From the new machine?
Now, 2 CMF01, CMF02, CMF04. CMF03 is good for another 600 some days. Because you can see all that in here.
Yeah, because CMF1 has really gone bad.
Oh, yeah. When the cache batteries go dead, it takes forever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. After
something just to copy or restore something, that was a pain.
well, yeah, and believe me, the problem is that really this needs to be done by a customer engineer. And I don't know who they sent in last time, but I remember watching my guys do it, and where is the VM? In the VM is the Word document?
Where in the VM is the Word document? In the VM, there is one document. Let me show you where it is. I'm right there. Okay, so go to the desktop, and there is a modern web service. One of the problems with this is that it's not up to date in one step of the Plex side. But if you're not doing that, I think that you're okay. So you can see there, there's a PDF just in the desktop. Right over there.
He answered, he said, now I read you or something. So I think we solved that gentleman's problem.
Okay.
No, I know about the batteries, but I don't think the guy that did it before, he probably didn't know anything about service tools. And I want to make sure to take the storage controller to an error state, change the battery, and then restart the cache when it's done. And maybe it was all okay. Now, to do CMF04, the way the new system is configured, again, 3 and 4 are true partitions. CMF03 has its own standalone disk enclosure, and there's a storage controller in there. So that battery can be done concurrently because you can get into it. CMF04, the storage controller is inside the processor chassis, so you got to shut the whole thing down. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it, pull the power plugs so nothing blows up, get the battery in, bring it back up, and then I want to get consoles on 1 and 2 by hooking them into the HMC.
So all of them are going to be at the same release level?
Well, yeah, 1, 3, and 4 will be the same. 2, because it's back level release-wise, stays where it is.
Okay, makes sense.
But yeah, we're gonna get latest greatest.
And then we'll have those consoles. That's gonna be good.
Yes, consoles.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm trying to follow the docs here.
Okay. All right.
Not sure if anyone else is actually doing, we're all in the same model?
Yes, everyone is in the same model.
Okay,
So,
so I'm on web services and I did a get all people SRV_RB service program.
okay.
Step 5. So,
Let me get in first.
you don't even need to share my screen if you just look at the model to see what I'm at. But I'm the only one that's created a function so far. So
Everybody else must be on break.
maybe.
Yeah, we started with 11 people this morning, so. All
Yeah,
right. So you're in which step is it?
5. Yeah.
Okay, create service program. Okay.
Took me a while to even just the documentation to find the file to use. So it's I'm in the web services function or file.
Yeah. Well, I want you guys all to create it in a web service. Go back over to the model. Okay, go do a 2 to go in as programmer. And do a 1 database relations. And do a W up on top. And then relation level DFN. DFN, you have to go over and do DFN over relation level.
Okay, so
Yeah. Because these aren't, no, do a W and then do the DFN.
W here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then space field exit over a DFN.
That's all?
Yep, and then press enter. Okay, so see where it says web service exercises?
Yeah.
That's where, that's where I want you guys to go ahead and create your objects.
Oh, I was doing it in web services just because of how I saw
Yeah,
that.
web server. I created the web services one as a sample for you, so you can see all the sample programs. I mean, you could basically, if you wanted to be really fast, you could copy those into your own objects. But but then you're sort of missing the
There's
fun of building them yourself.
There.
Yes, but of course, they are using the tried and true method of writing code, which is find someone who's already done something like it or similar, like it or it, and copy it.
Yes, that is true.
Sure, you want to see the HMC going over?
So, yeah, go ahead and do enough into that. So
Oh, no, no one's done any of the exercises yet.
no one has.
We're gonna have to
Wow.
Put some penalties to the people.
I guess nobody wants to have the experience here.
I'm trying to do it.
Brought to the park.
But again, like, I'm sorry, but
Box,
the way the documentation is kind of written,
Yeah.
six processing units,
Not-
19
it's
gigs.
not
of
easy
RAM.
to follow,
Oh,
so.
I was trying to make it so it'd be easy for you to follow.
That's right. Just
Well, just
Wasn't
start at the top of the dock,
memory.
like, I mean, it didn't even,
I left the old names. This was our production system. That was our development system running IDMI. And I can, if I wanted to, I can power the whole thing down from right here.
We didn't have this before.
No. See, this is it. Yeah, I have no way of talking to 1 and 2. This is great. You know, the machines in Dallas, if now I wouldn't do it now. I can power the whole damn, I can power the whole rack down minus the HMC right from here. I can deactivate the partitions and I can power down the server.
Yeah, I know sometime Mark wanted to do something, but he needs to fly to Dallas to be able to.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, this way you can do it in your PJs and bunny slippers.
Yeah, like we want to do everything now, right?
Yeah.
It's the new norm.
You have an HMC?
It's managed for us, so I don't have to do any of that.
Have you ever seen one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, where Mark and I were last together, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We had 9 physical boxes and 15 partitions.
That's that. Hey, that's a, I can deal with that.
Yeah, so yeah, you had to have that. I mean, no, it wasn't so bad. Well, we had to have it because you physically had a guy in the data center, Roger, lived in the data center. And the amount of work he had to do so in there, he was actually our engineer. So his job was to handle, he was hands-on for any of the physical stuff and handled, tapes, pulling and managing tapes, handled hardware upgrades and things like that. But the actual amount of work that he did on the eye, managing, for those, was probably about, if you put it all together, it's probably about 3 to 4 hours a week.
Sorry,
99% of his
sorry,
time.
guys.
Yeah.
I'm stuck.
Sure.
Yep.
All right.
You go into the web service exercise there.
Yep. Oh, can you go back over there? To the document or to the
No,
model?
to the model.
Okay,
So
and go ahead and F into that. All
So-
right.
that's as far as I got. I'm on
Okay.
option 5.
So you have your service program, so you also need to create your module. So,
Which is an execute external function.
just so I can understand, try and follow the doc, where would it say to do that?
okay, so
Create function, add person.
on option where it says create function, get persons. Okay, first you create get all people with your initials, and that is going to be your module. Then you're going to set your parameters.
Which page did you mark just to have? sync?
So did I,
Okay, go page up a little bit.
It's not moving.
Okay, keep paging up. So if you look at the top, create 2E functions, I have the process, where well, first you create your function name with a name, then you set the parameters, then you create the business logic, then you create your service program, And then you link the program and the business logic. So your business logic is going to be in your module. So the first process for get persons, you create the get all people MS or with your initials. And then that's going to be a regular AS400 or RPG program that you're going to set as a module. So you set your parameters for that get all persons. And that's where you have the HTTP status and you have the person table with a retrieval index. So.
Okay.
And
so you can you do it in 2E or?
I
So
can't.
basically, in the web services, those seven functions, you basically have to just duplicate those. Right? From what I can tell. I mean, I don't want to cut and paste. I want to actually try and understand, but.
Yeah, let me.
I'm actually the only one doing this, so.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so the first, I'm going to go back into those just to show it. Okay, so we go into the web. I'm giving you my example here. Whoops, if I can get this. Always, different computers always give you a different keystroke. Okay. There we are. Okay, so you're the one getting all persons, or are you which one are you were working on?
They will be
get all persons. Okay. So the first one you always create is the one for getting the data for your business logic. So that's going to be an execute external function. All right. So then this is a good approach to loading the arrays. So you end up having two arrays, one array for getting your data from the actual source file. And then the second array is to return back in the web service. So that's why we have the two different arrays. So it's a basic process of clearing the array, building the list. Where is it that you're having the issues with understanding it?
I was just trying to, stepping it through, following.
Okay.
I mean, if I read the instructions, I'm on step 5, create a service program, get all people, SV, RB, and then attach module.
So if you're on step 5, you've already created your module.
What did I create? Well, you can see in the web service exercise, service program, and I started to create the external function.
Okay, so you started creating the external function. All right.
So if you take a look, that's as far as I have gotten right now.
Okay, so in your external function.
So what step?
So if you're down to 5, that means that you've already created your program. So step 4 is the step where you actually add your business logic into the external function. And I gave a sample in there of how to retrieve the data.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, you want me to do a P on my external function?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead and do a P on your external function.
Okay. So can you do a P on that top function right now?
Yeah, sure.
See, because I seem to be getting an error. So yeah.
Okay, so for this one, we're not doing the array yet. I don't believe oh yeah, that was output for the array. Yeah. Okay, go ahead and Z into your array now. because you have to have your values being sent in or out with the array before it can be set as an array. So Z into your array.
I can't, you're locking it, but go ahead. You can do it for me.
I thought you had it locked. Okay.
Oh, maybe I do.
Someone had it locked.
I'm out.
Okay.
Oh, maybe the array was locked, you think?
Yeah, okay, try it now. Do a P on yours.
Okay.
And then let me know when you have it, and then I'll go in and you'll have you'll have it so you can make the changes.
Okay. No, when I do a Z value entered in, I gotta get
And there's probably nothing that's being sent in or out on that array, correct?
correct. Yeah.
So all of the fields have to be either sent in or out. So in this case, because we're returning them, we're going to send them all outputs.
Yeah.
Set them all as outputs.
Yeah.
What happens, what's really weird with this, if you have a field that's not identified in the array that's being sent in or out, it will create this extra really weird field when you create. Yeah, it does. So they all have to be identified. That's why I end up using arrays, even though, you know, you could have, you would think you could use just the fields from the function. As long as I'm sending every single one in or out, I could, but I didn't want to send the audit stamps. So I had to create an array that just had the fields that I wanted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it says if you're trying to pass as an array, you can't drop field.
Right.
It tells you that.
Yep.
Well, let's be honest, passing as arrays are still relatively.
They are. They were just created one step
Two
back
releases
to,
ago.
yeah.
Created 2 releases ago, really and they never really, the explanation for how to use it was never really a good one.
No, and I've seen people use them in a few different ways, but that's why I said, this is a way that works for me. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is how you pass out this is the only way you can pass out
a list. Yeah.
a result set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you should pass out how many records are in there so that when they get it, they know how far to loop through it.
You should. That is one thing that I a lot of times do is pass out. But now, actually, with their newer setup, it's supposed to limit how many it creates. It's not supposed to, like if you have 30 in your array, but only 10 results, it's supposed to limit down to 10. There's a certain way you can do that now, but that's when you deploy with a 2E web service. So they didn't make it available for everybody else, only if you deploy it through the 2E process. So that's an enhancement we could make tomorrow.
What does that mean?
Well, say I have an array that I created with 100 elements,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm only.
You have to statically define the size of the
Yeah.
result set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It can't be done at runtime.
Yeah.
And so if you're passing back, if I could potentially be passing back 10,000 rows or even 500 rows,
Mm-hmm.
but your result set is only 50.
Mm-hmm.
You're still passing back 450 empty rows of data.
Oh, yeah, but as you can see, there is a code in Plex that is only showing 3. That is
Right. Yeah. You only show 3, but what we'd like to do is make it so that the array is dynamic.
okay. So instead of passing all that, so you want to do that instead of the consumer to handle
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Right.